Good morning, everyone. Welcome you all for the professional certification course on conservation biology. Today we have a special speaker from Vancouver, Canada. She is Mrs. Jegatha Rajkumar. She's a financial planner, community advocate, and also an educator. She has more than 20 years of financial services, a lot of experience for us to just share with us also. With bachelor's degree in economics, she completed management in education from Aberdeen University, Scotland. Rajkumar is a dedicated financial planner committed to help families achieve financial clarity and long-term security as well. Her approach is practical, personalized, and centered on empowering families to make informed financial decisions and confidence. It's very important that whenever we organize, whenever we have a project to execute, financial management is very important. Today we will be hearing more from her. She'll be sharing all her experience with regard to financial management. Earlier, she spent her time for more than 26 years in Kenya, and she was a former principal and educator in international schools in Kenya. She also helped a lot of people, especially street children, organizing developments and developments. She is passionate about community development education. Jegatha has consistently worked to uplift vulnerable populations through structured learning, mentorship, and empowerment initiatives. We look forward to just hear from her. Now it's time, Dr. Jegatha Rajkumar, we welcome you to just give a talk to our students now. Thank you so much.
Taken care of, the income that they make cannot be very much beneficial to them in their future. So it's not talking about current date, it's talking about in life and in future. So normally we talk about, okay, you have a certain amount of income. So let's split that income into 6 different accounts. It's nothing very unusual, but if you look at our forefathers back, maybe 2 generations back, that's what they did with the little money they had. Do you remember that? Maybe you have heard about your great grandmas. I don't know what age you are. I'm assuming you're much younger. So I'm talking about your great grandmas had budgeted that money without knowing they were budgeting, but they had something allocated for each and every part of their life. So when you talk about it, it is setting up, let's say, 6 accounts. That's what we generally say. Each time you receive your money, then it goes into 6 different jars. So when you do it in this different jars, jar number 1 is the necessity. So you and I, it's a little different when we talk about India. The responsibility is all on parents. So as when you are still being with your parents, you may not realize the budgeting part of it. One fine morning you get married and then you realize, oh my God, what am I doing with my money? So here is the time that you are thinking about. There should always be those jars in our back, in our mind. So there's the basic need, the necessity that you're talking about. Yes, we need the food, we need the shelter, we need the transportation, we have to pay the utility bills. When I say utility bills, do you all understand the electricity, hydro, whatever, right? That, all that. And of course, talking about today's generation technology, you spend a lot on that as well. So when you, and the cell phones, right? All those becomes necessities these days. So that comes into a 1 jar. How much is the basic I need for my living? That's jar number 1. Jar number 2. What am I talking about? Is it talking about emergencies? Emergencies can knock at our door anytime. Every family knows that. There could be emergencies. So when you talk about emergency, it could be a medical need, or it could be your car, or it could be even just a little mechanic for your two-wheeler, right? Anything can be an emergency. But normally people dig in. I think that's the trend, I think, has started off in India as well, where people very easily go into credit cards, right? So, but those are all debts. So when you're looking at emergencies, we are setting aside money for emergencies as well. Then again, we all are in a lifestyle mode of big purchases, which we don't plan. So there could be a jar that goes for big purchases, for the rainy days, even for a holiday. You have to set aside that, right? All this can go into your second jar. So the second jar is the money that you're saving for that particular purpose. If you budget it right, then the family does not go through financial crisis. So when you look at jar number 3, we are looking at, of course, we work hard. When you work hard, and when you play hard as well. So you need to understand that you need to have some happy life and happy moments and family time. So naturally, everything needs money. But it's not just on an emotional trend of spending just for a particular festivity or for a particular party time or for an outing or a holiday, whatever. But it has to be, again, you can spoil yourself, but spoil yourself and your family, but by setting it aside. That would be the jar number 3. So if you look at it, jar number 4, what am I talking about? Yeah, you're not talking about, you need to always think about you're growing, right? Growing does not stop just like to say, well, I've reached a certain age and I stopped growing. No, it's not about that. It's like a personal development. You need to grow every single day. Every individual has to grow, be it you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 60s, or even 70s. We still have to grow. So you need to think about, yes, purchases of books, or you're taking up a course, which is very common in Canada, where people, even when you retire, they switch on to go for new courses. There are 65 plus in Canada, they go to university, not a single dollar to pay. You can get you can graduate from a university at no cost if you are a senior. So people go for those courses. So what we are looking at is you need that. And of course, especially when we come from a society with a lot of importance is given to education, right? So you need to plan your children's education as well, kids' education. Otherwise, they start life with another debt, which is a student loan. So all this is something to set aside. So jar number 4 is purely for that. Jar number 5, you're looking at how do you want your financial freedom to be down the road? Not talking about today, right? If just like I was told that you are taking up your master's, so probably you're all in your early, I don't know what number you will throw. Can you interact with me? Are you in your 20s, mid 20s? Somewhere between 20s, right? Or early 30s. But, and you all think, oh, retirement is too far away, right?
Mid
You're not going
20s.
to, yeah.
Mid
So you're
20s.
looking, so if you're looking at, oh, I'm not going to retire, oh, that's a long way to go. Oh, not really. You need to think about it today. The day that understand that there is retirement coming in, you have to start setting aside money for your future. So that is the longest holiday that we all take. People fail to understand that. I mean, if you're making even a day trip, a picnic, maybe am I told that's 12 of you going for a picnic? There's a lot of planning to be done for that picnic, right? And you go for a picnic, you plan it for weeks and months, what to eat and what to wear and where to go, right? But you don't forget there is a long picnic coming. That is your retirement. You need to plan for that. So that is the longest retirement, and you need to give importance to that. So naturally, you need to make sure your asset is growing. So that helps you in the future. Your savings are there. So um, today's life is convenient or comfortable for us because we have assets accumulated by our parents and grandparents. So you are able to get all that benefit of it. But then what are we going to give for your next generation? You need to think about it. So here is very important to save for. That is jar. Coming to the jar number 6. Of course, we all think about it. We need to make sure that we always contribute something towards a charitable organization. There's so much of need out there. So they need. So from whatever small we have, it can be contributed to a nonprofit organization. You can think about your faith-based groups or through your personal contacts to do something small for for the world around, right? So that's very important in life to set aside something small. So that is jar number 6. So if we put this jar number, all these jars, set it aside, then you have a very peaceful life. Life that is moving very much steady, with peace, with happiness, with not much of turmoils. So you need to understand that personal financing is very, very important to consider when it comes to anything related with finance. So, keeping that in mind, I think you will also understand you're taking your next step to think about okay, I may get into a research and then I may think about how to start off my research, my project. So, something that I start, if I have to think about it, has to be very comfortable and I have to make sure that I succeed. It is all about planning. So, planning is very, very important in our life, which we may not have it inbuilt in us. So, we have to intentionally develop that sense of planning in us. Because
We are
when
not
I
able
was
to see the slides.
Yeah,
Slides.
I'm going to share another slide now talking
Okay.
about your project and your project financing. Because now we are moving to the next level of the personal financing is so much important in life. Now we are moving to something beyond us, which you need to understand that is very, very important in your life. So let me go back and now share with you something that could go for your academic part of learning. And if you want to have a very successful, so if you want to have a very successful project that you would like to manage, then you need to think about my success starts with planning. Very important. So let me talk about now going to the serious note of it, right? You all have, I can see that you all have a book to write down. I'm sure, like we normally say when we go for sitting with families or in a community or in a group, if I don't want to sound rude, but please make sure your cell phone is on vibration. So it can wait. There's nobody on emergency run, right? So you can put it on vibration and keep that away from you and make sure that you take down notes as much as you can. So today I would like to speak about one of the most critical pillars of project success. So what do you think is project? How can a project be successful? Can we interact? Anybody can say something. What do you think will make your project successful?
Nice results.
Yeah. You may
Very good results.
Very good results. Are we talking about the percentage marks?
Interpretation and data collection.
Data collection. Okay. Good. Keep going.
Finishing in time.
What's that?
Completing in time and finishing all the.
Completing it in the time. Okay, good. Yeah, well said. Okay, so we are looking at all this as you want to finish it successfully. Yes, you want to finish it on time. And do you understand the most critical pillars of your project success is coming from your, write down, project budgeting. If you do not budget your project, then it's not going to complete it successfully. So a great idea without a proper budgeting will just become a dream. Like now we are all dreaming, right? Like we are thinking about a project and we are thinking, oh, I'm going to take up this project, or I have a passion for something like this, or I want to do A, B, and C. So when you're looking at it, it's fine, but it's still a dream, right? So if the budgeting transforms that dream, actually, your dream can be transformed into a structured, achievable plan. Only the budgeting will help you to get that achievable plan, so that your resources can be allocated wisely. Do you all agree there can be risks that can be anticipated? Yeah, every project has got risks. And you need to anticipate. We cannot say, oh, I'm going to be risk-free. No, there's so many conditions beyond our control. So we need to understand the risk has to be anticipated. And the financial discipline is maintained throughout the project life cycle, throughout the project. Sometimes we have the tendency to start the project with a very good budget, but it goes in the drain just because your project has just started off. When it kicks off, you forget your budget. No, it cannot. It has to be discipline, financial discipline. So, three things. Remember that. You have to first allocate it wisely, and then you need to make sure there is risks that can be anticipated, and then you also have to understand there should be a financial discipline. So, remember this. Budget gives direction. It gives direction for your project. Budget gives you the discipline, because you will live within your means and you will be guarded actually. When you have a budget that guards you to stay focused on your path to success. So there is direction and there is discipline. And because of that budget, you will be staying focused and complete the entire project, because it keeps you focused on that project to complete. So always remember, when you think about budget, what comes to my mind? Do you all agree? You just think about, oh, it's just estimating numbers, right? That's what I thought too. It's just estimating numbers. It is a planning financial strategy. It is a strategy that it brings in. It's not about the numbers, actually. The numbers are just a guideline, but it gives me the strategy to go around and complete my project. So first I have to think about, what do I first think about? Is my cost. So what's my cost estimation? So there are three types of costs that you can think about. One is direct cost. Cost that leads into, like, directly it is involving expenses related to my project. Say, for example, the labor, the money that I pay, the salary that I pay, or towards the labor, the one that I have to work on to directly pay for towards my project. For the material I just buy is the direct, these are direct costs. Now, the indirect cost is the overhead that supports the main expenses. Say, for example, you have to work from a particular place, and then that place needs some expenses like electricity bill has to be paid, or stationery has to be bought, or things that you indirect costs. So sometimes you may pick up an awareness program, and then awareness program you want to conduct at a particular venue, but it doesn't mean the direct cost alone involved. You probably want to give away some sort of bags to walk for the participants to walk away with, so that can be an awareness shared among the community, a bag to just walk away at the completion of your seminar or a day's workshop. So that is an indirect. These are overhead expenses that we are talking about, right? So you need to understand there's direct cost, there is indirect cost, there's contingency reserves. So what does that mean? Oh, there could be, while your project is on, you can divert you to an unexpected expense. There is something that you never thought would be something that you have to consider. Payment, it is not included. So there should be reserves kept in your. So when you're, just like I heard from Dr. Daniel, that yeah, you may be applying for a project and then you may be receiving some amount for a project. But that amount cannot just be directly only for direct and indirect. No, no, you should have some reserves because the unexpected expenses are all going to be there. Okay, so that is called the contingency expenses. So, what type of method am I doing? You see, when I think about any type of a project, how do I estimate this project cost? How do I estimate it? So there are different ways you can think about project estimation. So one is analogous method. So what happens is you may go to Dr. Daniel and say, I'm going to pick a project like this, and I want some help how to work on my budgeting here. So with experiences that they have and conducting projects, they may probably tell you, okay, your project is very much similar to something that I have come across, and I can give you some resources from there. So, what does that mean? You're comparing similar projects and you're trying to get ideas and expenses related to that. So, keeping in mind about the inflation, you need to set out that is analogous. Analogous is just comparing similar projects. Then there is a second way of method is bottom up. So what does that mean is you estimate each area of, there could be different, let's say sectors or different details of your project, different areas of the project. So each area's cost can be worked out similarly. Like say, for example, travel expenses. So particularly I will have to travel around this area. So what could be the cost of just for travel? So that's one sector of it. Then the other sector probably is to say some research, some sort of study that you have to do in a certain areas, and that expenses related to those studies. How many people are going to be involved in it? So things like that. So your each area sector wise you now estimate, and that's what we call it bottom up. So
It's
detail.
11 hours.
Pardon?
Yeah, don't worry. That's an automated instruction.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. Then we have a parametric. So what is a parametric one is just unit cost. Say, for example, I know when you're talking about research, you probably have to go travel around here and there, do the survey or do a research. So it's just a simple one. For one person, if I have to travel there, I have to go with a surveyor or I have to go with 2, 3 a team of people. So each person's cost. So it's like every unit cost time. How much is it? And have a parameter of how many people or how many square feet cost per area. So area of the square, every section unit of it has a cost, so times the parameter. So you will think about what could be that expenses. So you know what, you don't fix to one type of method. You will probably find all these different method can be introduced into your projects to calculate your cost. So that's just an idea for you. And then you're talking about budgeting, right? So when you're talking about budgeting, you next move on to the next terminology that you need to look at is what's my cost baseline? So what is the cost baseline? This is a roadmap to your project. So it tells us how much we can spend and when we can spend it. So even if there is an amount received, then you need to put all the different areas under a particular title or so. And then every part of that would be how much to be spent on each section of it, the basic expenses that you may need. That's the cost baseline that you're looking at how to spend on it. So budgeting does not stop once the project begins, just like I said. that is where the cost control becomes very essential. So because you have a baseline, you have a budget, you have now allocated it for different areas, and you have now managed to keep a benchmark. Remember that benchmark, you have to keep an eye on it and have to make sure that you have a cost control. And that is very, very essential. That's the third step, is to say have a cost control. So we continuously monitor actual expenses against a planned one. So this is where you have to think about the cash flow planning, because what is coming in and what is going out for each of these sectors. It's very, very important. The funding requirements, what are required in for the funding, you need to make sure you focus on the priority areas so you do not lose out. Why? Why was this given and for what purpose is given? It has to be this part of area how you spend on it. So identifying that is very, very important. Number 3, when you talk about it, and this type of, when you talk about, is the monitoring. So you're monitoring your actual versus the planned costs. You know what? Sometimes things may be up and down here and there. So what you're looking at, oh, I did my budget right, but then there is a variance. How is this variance coming in? So even when the variance comes in, you need to use tools. So what are these tools that you will use? One is called the earned value management. So when you talk about the earned value management, is your project measurement tech. These are project measurement techniques. So what are we going to do is your scope of expenses, what was supposed to be spent, and how much did you actually spend? And where is this variance coming in? You need to monitor this. It's very, very important in your project. So you need to see that if the money that is spent on each area, does it give value back as per estimated? So for example, if you're looking at planning, let us say an awareness program. Now, when your awareness program says particularly to have a workshop or a half a day workshop at a particular place, then whatever you spent on it, what is the result? Did this bring value back? So what is the feedback? What is the result? So then the amount that has been spent on that is the value that you're looking at. So earned value management is very, very important to understand whether you, while you're doing this, is when you can understand, are we over the budget, are we under the budget, or are we on schedule? Okay. So a strong budget processes also includes risk management. So every project, like I said, has uncertainty. So, but remember we talked about contingency reserves. So that is what comes in handy at this time. So when you are doing under budget or if it is over budget, you need to understand that were we prepared for it? So if we are not prepared, there are unexpected returns, then it may end up actually jeopardizing your project. So you don't want to go over that situation. So you need to make sure your project, that whatever activity that you do in your project has to bring some results. So you look at the value, or if you have underestimated it, you need to make sure, oh, why did it come in, or did we not use it as much? So that is a learning process of your project as you step forward. So it's very important because it prevents your overrun, to say that you run short of fund, or it at the same time it improves your profitability. Every step of it improves your profitability. For every activity you take, if you keep in track with your budget, it really helps you to successfully move ahead in a project. It also actually gives a stakeholder confidence, because you are reporting to your stakeholder about how these funds are being used. So naturally, your fund reporting system has to be very accurate and has to be reasonable. So your variance can be reasonable. But then if it is unexpected turns come in, it can be explained in your budget. So this is how you win the confidence of your stakeholder as well. So remember that. And the last point that is, it gives you a better decision making. So every step of it, like I said, the budget guides you in your project. So you will be able to make right decisions in every step of your, every activity of your project. So it's very important. So in conclusion, a budgeting is not about limiting spending. Remember that. It's not about limiting your spending, but it is just to make sure that your project it keeps you to move towards a smart spending. It ensures that every dollar or a rupee that you spend it creates value. So remember that you will enjoy the project more, especially when you are seeing small results or progress in every step. Okay, I think I went a bit. Okay, so this is where we are talking about you're managing cost overruns. So it's very important at that step. So let's again think about monitoring actual versus planned costs along with variance and correct actions and and control your system. Once the project begins, see, money starts moving. So resources are deployed and you have to pay people, or your activities are executed. At every stage, you need to make sure you compare what we plan to spend versus what we actually spend. So monitoring actual versus planned cost is very important. Okay, that is what is helping you for risk and contingency management. So if we do not monitor regularly, small deviations can grow into major overruns. So early visibility is much better, so you can easily or much easily allow corrections when you are at a very early stage. So your corrections can be done at a very early stage if you're monitoring it with more care. So even when the variation comes in, you need to make sure the variation is not, you need to understand why that variation happened. Why did it occur? Is it going to occur regularly, recurring, or is it only temporary? You need to understand that, because something that you spend on the first week, you may also end up spending every 2 weeks, or something that is regular will build up, which will give you, we call it the snowball effect, right? It will keep growing. So what impact will it have in the overall budget? You need to understand. If it is a small variation, just a temporary one, I can correct myself and avoid that next time. But if it is recurring, I have to be at risk. So if we plan to, or sometimes my estimation may be poor too. So is it when my estimation is poor, it can also, let us say, avoid, or it can be an obstacle to the expansions. So I need to understand if my estimate, I have estimated low, but should not be in the expense of the project's scope. So I need to make sure that I focus on that. Sometimes there could be delays. Delay is very common, right? So when you are having a project that is much delayed, and you need to understand the delay is beyond your control, then there should be some variance. These are the variants that I'm talking about, which is beyond our control. So that's why you need to have some reserve. Management reserves is part of your budget. So correct actions may include reducing non-essential expenses. This is where you are correcting yourself. and you're trying to say managing cost overruns, and you're trying to say, okay, I now need to make sure my income expense is balanced right, and I try to avoid it. So here I will go into reducing my non-essential expenses. I have to reallocate my resources. I may have to negotiate with vendors, right? And adjust my timeline. So these are most important things that you will have to consider. So when you talk about it, is what is more matters is transparency. So when you talk about it, when you think about your final cost, but you're trying to make every step of it, you're trying to correct yourself. You're learning a lesson in every project. But remember that it's very, very important. How often should I maintain my budget? I would say on weekly basis, because it has to be on in the correct. It has the data has to be there for every part of your expenses or the income or whatever activity. There should be a login, and so you have to monitor your progress on a weekly basis. But sometimes your depending on what projects you take, some may even demand more frequent visits to your data. So why this matters? Monitoring and variance analysis, corrective actions, and change control, all these are very powerful financial control framework. So they can ensure one thing, there is transparency, right? It's very important to have a very transparent way of having the right information. And then there is accountability. Now, I would say that my accountability would be is like, oh, I have received it, but I cannot take this lightly. If I have to be in my path, I would always go to my whomever is trying to help you out. It could be your supervisor, it could be someone who is helping in your research, somebody. You need to be accountable to someone to say that, am I in the right path? Am I able to follow this? This is what I did and this is what I'm reporting. So if that transparency is there, and if there is an accountability, you see, accountability keeps people more conscious about what they are doing. So to make sure that if you need to be successful, you try to keep that accountability, give it importance so that you can be successful in your project. And not only that, when you are monitoring, like I said, early risk detection. So you can detect any type of risks that's coming up. You are able to see it up front. Oh, this is where I'm going to have a problem. So then you are able to you can control the source or to control the flow of your project. And you win the confidence too of people. This is something that you're building on for the future. So you can win the confidence of your stakeholders too, right? And not only, one thing you need to understand, every project that we take, mostly to my knowledge that I understand, is not successful because there is no financial management in it. So your project cannot be completed within time when it is not having a proper budget. Or the project itself actually it dies out before the deadline because this has not been managed right. So we don't want to go in. All the effort that you take has to be as successful. Then you need to have a financial sustainability for your project. It's very, very important. So in conclusion, I would say planning sets your direction. Very important. Planning sets the direction. So it only sets your direction. So once I start off, monitoring keeps us on track. So that's what I talked about. You need to have your monitoring. So as you monitor, what do I monitor? It's not just about the income and expenses. It is the value of every day's activities has to be penned down. It has to be recorded to see. Even sometimes the expenses could be there, but has it brought in some values on that day? Then you have moved ahead in your project. So you need to understand that monitoring keeps us on track, right? And you're able to keep that as part of it. And correct actions, it restores the balance of your project because you're correcting yourself on and off, because this leads you to the right direction. Change control, it maintains your discipline. So I'll repeat these 4 points. Planning sets the direction. Monitoring keeps us on track. Corrective action restores balance. Change control maintains discipline. Always remember that a well-managed budget is not about restriction. Sometimes we just feel, oh, it's just restricting me. No, it's not actually a restriction on us. It develops us a responsibility. It is about responsibility. Even in your personal finances, when you have a restricted amount to spend, it actually develops a discipline in each one of us, right? So that is what also happens in your projects as well. So it's very, very important. So when you talk about it, so why project financial matters? It's all this. We are talking about it is something that every time you need to think about it. So even with great tools, budgeting works much better. These days, I'm sure you all are you're more well versed with all the apps and different type of tools that you have. So I would say that this is why I would say that weekly check-ins. Number one, review expenses versus planned budget, at least weekly. Very important for you to variance dashboards. So visualize your deviations quickly. So it controls your route, controls your roadmap. So with your apps, actually, if people are very conversant with your mobile phones, there are several apps. When it comes to spending, you can always hit at putting a mark on 75%. When it hits at 75% or 50%, set up a mark that in sort of alerts you to say, hey, you have gone up to 50%, you're moving to 60%. So when you know that, oh, have I reached my project 60%? My fund is almost like 6. So get notified about it. That's very good. And then you have a version control. Keep a baseline. So when I talked about it, when the baseline is there and then you control, change requests for updated costs and plans. So you need to, when you monitor it, sometimes it helps you also to understand that you may have underestimated something and now you need to make changes all over your project tech, whatever it may be, the most important matters that you cannot avoid, then you need to make sure you need to change requests. So when you look at it, this is how you make sure that you keep your budgeting works much better. So how do I manage with all this? You know what? Tons and loads of it, you see it on internet. You don't have to pay big money for this. I normally would go for Google Sheets or Excel templates, which is much easier, which can be designed according to your project, and then you keep a track of it. But there are so many budget options that you can think about. These are a few, that those ones are free online. Free budget, budget pulse, good budget. You may have something from your end that you can all consider what you're comfortable with. There's also mobile friendly app versions. You can consider all that. to be part of your project where you can monitor it much easily. Remember that not just because someone uses it, I have to use it. I need to look at what is more user friendly to me. All of us are different. So you need to make sure you need to have your own, what you are comfortable with, and how you can design, how you can use it much easy according to that. You need to take it up. So I think that's the end of what I can talk about. So hopefully you had benefited something small from me, but I now will pass it on to Dr. Daniel.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
See you then. Bye. And good luck on your future studies.